Now, we've now got some more people for you to listen to their story. It'll just take us a little minute to get sorted. But here, you're going to be able to listen in to a conversation between John Harvey, who many of you know, and you know that John has been part of this project team the whole time, always there, supporting, encouraging, and giving us his words of wisdom. And he's been to Iona thousands and thousands of times. And he's going to talk to Katy, who's never been to Iona before. This is her very first visit. She's an associate. And so they're going to just share a bit of their experience for you. So just give us a minute while we get them both together.
So what do you make of it?
Yeah, absolutely love it. So William, my fiance, and I, this is both our first time here. And so for so long, we've just wanted to be part of a community like Iona with those values and the mission.
Sure.
So we finally got connected, and we've been so privileged to be able to come for this week of all weeks. So it's been great.
You couldn't have picked a more exciting week to come.
I know, exactly.
It's been amazing.
Especially the people that we've been sitting around having our breakfast with, and the conversations you get to have. And we're like, we can't wait to be there in a couple of decades.
Yeah. Well, I guess I've been here for 6 decades, coming and going. First came in 1958 as a volunteer, and then came back again to help rebuild the West Range, the bit that's now the kitchen block, in 1964, 65. And then I was back in 1971 with my wife and children to be the warden of the Abbey for 5 years. And then in 1988 became the leader of the community. So I've had a number of shots, if you like, at coming and going to the island. But what was your first impression when you actually stepped off the jetty?
Oh, well, we were very tired at that point. We only could get the first ferry over, so we had to leave Glasgow at about 4 a.m.
Oh.
But as soon as we stepped off, it felt like, oh, I can breathe.
Right.
Almost. It was just like you know what I mean, like a breath of fresh air.
Right.
And from as soon as we stepped off, Christine was there to welcome us, and you just felt that deep connection with people that you've never met before.
Sure.
So I think that's what both of us, he's probably nodding in the back saying, yeah, I agree. We both felt that, and just being able to walk, along towards the Abbey and just feel a sense of anticipation of who we might get to spend the week with, but of what we might experience in quiet and reflection and all of that. So it just felt like a fresh breath almost for both of us and our deep in our soul.
That's great. My first impression was completely different, totally different, because I had no idea what to expect. I arrived here on my own. Nobody was expecting me because nobody had told anybody I was coming. And I remember walking up past the nunnery and seeing the Abbey, and the main impression I was getting at that point was the history of the place. The feeling of old place, amazing things have happened here. Look at these buildings. Goodness me, I've never seen anything like it. Walked into the Abbey, went up the first set of stairs I could find, walked into the first door that was open, and saw 2 people. The lady who was the cook, it turned out, and one of the builders sitting at a table. And I said hello and told them my name. And this lady, who actually was here today, she's now in her 90s, said to me, "Oh, would you like something to eat?" And that was my first impression. I thought, well, it's a nice hospitable place anyway. And that was me. So I had an amazing time. But I very quickly got involved in just helping to meet the guests and be a volunteer in the place.
Do you feel like it's changed much over the years?
Hugely, Katy, in many ways, and not at all in another. I mean, obviously the building, when I first came, it wasn't even finished being rebuilt. And now it's been not only finished, but refurbished. So in terms of the building, it's had its huge changes, but also because of its ancient history, it still very much feels the same.
Yeah.
You know, I could imagine that a Benedictine monk from those days coming in would recognize it. You know, he would recognize a lot of it. But on the other hand, the use of the place, the way it has changed hugely. I mean, when I came, first of all, only men could stay in the abbey because, as was pointed out earlier this afternoon, there were no facilities really for anybody else. There were no disabled facilities. I won't even go into the details of what the toilets were like because they really were awful. And the rooms were, as John said earlier, quite small and cramped. But the use of the place in terms of many more people coming, families coming, disabled people coming, folk from all over the world coming. And that just grew and grew and grew. And now, you know, you've got people coming from every part of the world coming and going to the place. But also there was a huge number of young people started coming. And that was very exciting too.
Yeah, actually on our first day, we were bumping into people who are maybe just over for the day of visiting, and they were telling us all those stories about the young people and the camps and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But we're obviously quite new to the community. So how would you sum it up in a couple of words? Like I know that might be really hard to do, but if you had to, maybe like 3 words or something, well, I'll give you at least more than words, but how would you describe it for yourself?
Oh my goodness, in terms of the actual Iona community and what we're about. Well, we talk a lot about marrying things that are often kept apart, like Sunday and Monday, worship and work, prayer and politics, justice and peace. These values and commitments come together in the community in a very important way, always done for me. So that, I mean, to give an example, the first week I was here, I came down for the morning worship service into this church and found that all the workmen who were working on the walls, rebuilding, were in the pew, in the choir stalls, in their working clothes with their tools. So that church suddenly was not a place where you put on a smart suit and a tie on a Sunday. It was a place for the everyday where ordinary things were honored and recognized. And that to me has been one of the most important parts of the life of the community, that we are enabled and encouraged and challenged to recognize God in the ordinary everyday life, which is not unique to us, or, you know, it's a common thing. It's a theme that comes from the gospel, but it still has to be reaffirmed time and time again. I'll mention another aspect of it, and this refers to your homeland, because the Corrymeela community in Northern Ireland, of which some of our family are members of, is got this great statement that says, Corrymeela begins when you leave. Now, that also was important for us here at Iona. We said people sometimes come to Iona looking for peace and quiet, and we hope they'll leave looking for peace and justice. You know, there's this sense of a movement. This is a place you go through. It's not a place where you stay. It gets you moving and moves you forward, hopefully into more involved commitment in the world, as does Corrymeela. Yeah.
And everything you've just said is why we ended up here.
Yeah.
And to be able to sit with the likes of yourself or the people that we've been sharing meals with and hearing that, it just brings it all out in you again. It just gives you that drive to go after it in your everyday, everywhere, everyone type thing. So it's great to hear that from yourself.
and to do it together.
Mm,
You know, this is the great thing, because you know, and I know that we would never manage to do that on our own.
no.
We'd get tired, we'd get disheartened, we'd get led off into different pathways. But having to be together, people often said to me when I asked them, why did you want to join the community? They said, because there was an opportunity to do things together across not just denominational boundaries, but boundaries of gender and sexual orientation and, you know, poverty and riches, all these gaps which have got to be bridged to help to do them together. So I'm delighted that you and William are connecting up.
I know.
We're very pleased that you're getting involved with our family group in Glasgow.
I know, exactly.
which is
We
wonderful.
finally got to meet in person.
I
instead
know,
of, like,
I know.
through a-
Oh, we've
That's another great thing about it, isn't it? Actually getting to be with people in
Yeah,
person and
I
see.
know. Well, we will actually manage to meet face to face now that we're allowed out of
I know.
lockdown.
I know, and I think is that us now? Yeah. So,
So
but we
thank,
could like sit here for hours, couldn't we?
I
And
know,
talk
we
and
could.
talk.
but I hope you'll come again many, many times.
Yes, I think we'd definitely. plan on
And
doing
we'll
that.
look forward to having a longer chat and
I know.
at home in less formal circumstances.
I know, not with a camera in
No,
front of us, but it's nice to be with everybody.
Okay, thank you
I
very
know.
much, Katie. Good to talk to you.